Take us further on the topic of ISIL and terrorism. We turn now to Gus Martin in Los Angeles. He's a California State University professor and author of Understanding Terrorism, Challenges, Perspectives, and Issues. It's a pleasure to have you on the broadcast, Professor. Thanks so much for joining us. What do you make of this claim, given the fact that Jordan is insisting this pilot was actually killed at an earlier date? I mean, is there any way to substantiate what they're saying?
Well, we have to rely on our intelligence assets to actually substantiate what they're saying. But understand that ISIL is a master of propaganda, and they have broadcast untruths in the past. I think it's very likely that the pilot was executed a while ago, as the Jordanians are saying. And I do also question the veracity of what they're claiming with the American hostage.
What's the end game for ISIL and these hostages? I mean, what do they hope to achieve? Is it just staying top of mind, keeping it in the news, since we're talking about them again? Is it the ransom? Is it a combination of both? What's the end game?
It's a combination of all of that, actually. Ransoms have been paid, so in a sense, it is a source of revenue for this organization. But at the same time, remember that they are really reaping enormous propaganda attention from these executions and from taking the hostages. When a Western hostage is taken, the Western governments respond, the Western media responds. So they are achieving attention, and in some cases, they're actually achieving ransom demands.
Are we likely to see more kidnappings of Westerners?
This seems to be the current cycle that ISIL is engaging in. And when you look at terrorist environments throughout history, there have been certain cycles. And in this case, ISIL has actually said that they intend to take more Western hostages. And the threat now is that they may go into third countries other than Syria and Iraq to kidnap people and take them hostage.
Gus, how do you combat the Islamic State? Let's just frame this with Ukraine, for example. We have leaders now from Europe looking for a diplomatic solution to the violence there. You can't really negotiate with these people. And this concept of destroying ISIL, we heard that with al-Qaeda. Now there's ISIL. I mean, what is the answer?
ISIL, I think we can say, is the extreme of the extreme. They're very dedicated, fanatical, and motivated by a sort of an end of days kind of religious ideology. They have no shortage of volunteers who are coming to fight with them under this sort of utopian vision of the world. And unfortunately, I think that the only way to end their threat is to defeat them militarily. They are not the types who will surrender very easily.
More than 2,000 airstrikes against ISIL. Is it making much of a difference?
Airstrikes can certainly degrade an enemy, degrade an insurgency, and certainly they've been hurt. They cannot operate as openly as they used to. Remember that when ISIL first began its offensive this past summer, they swept into cities, swept into towns. They cannot do that anymore because they are easy targets. Now, having said that, it's very difficult to defeat an enemy on the ground through airstrikes. One does need to defeat them militarily in the field.
Gus, we're getting reports that eyewitnesses saying the Islamic State militants also burned at least 3 people alive in Iraq's western Anbar province. That coming in today. These grisly tactics, we've seen beheadings, we've seen people burned alive. Are they just trying to top themselves each time? I mean, what are we going to see there?
ISIL does these things as a sort of a way to terrify us. I mean, this is what terrorism is all about. But remember that they really do answer only to God in their own minds. So whatever they do pleases God in their own minds. They certainly have beheaded people, they've burned them alive, they've thrown people off of buildings, they've crucified children, according to a new United Nations report. There's really no limit to what they're willing to do because in their minds, again, they answer only to God.
We're just about out of time, so quickly, if you will, do they have an Achilles heel?
I think that their Achilles heel really is that the Arab world, the Muslim world, is turning against them. As one of the Jordanian leaders said today to the West, he said, "This is not your fight. This is our fight." And he's absolutely correct about that because ISIL is targeting the regimes in the Middle East. Their Achilles heel is that the Middle Eastern people will turn against them. They cannot win this.
All right, Gus Martin joining us live from Los Angeles. Thank you.